If you come across this book, as the name might suggest, you would think this is another get-rich-quick book. But what if I tell you this is one of the most practical books on personal finance? In this video, I'll be highlighting the top lessons from this book and what I think people should take into consideration when they are choosing their path to wealth creation. Everyone has chosen a financial roadmap in how they want to create wealth. If I ask you, what's your financial roadmap? If you tell me immediately, it means that you've actually chosen one. But if you haven't, at the end of this video, the goal of this video is to ensure that you understand what path you may have chosen subconsciously and consciously, and how you can actually take effective steps in choosing what path is best for you. According to this book, there are three main financial roadmaps that people take. It's either a sidewalk, slow lane, or fast lane. And first off, I'd go over the sidewalk. These are people who mostly live in the moment, people who believe a lot in instant gratification. You may have heard the term, you only live once. This suggests you have to, enjoy the moment and, mostly forget about the future. Now, with respect to finance, people who think about you only live once do not consider the future in terms of how they spend their money. You might find people who earn a lot of money, but as long as they're spending the more money that they have, it means that they would never have enough money to either invest or think about the future. Now, there are different characteristics of people who fall under this category. In terms of education, people under this category believe that once their formal education, such as high school, university, is done, they don't have to learn anymore. Also, they blame the system for whenever they have a problem. They might say the system is against them, that certain people are only allowed to be rich. And if they find that people who are actually successful, they tend to say these people are lucky, or they either got money through a sketchy means. If you ever find people having such characteristics, it means that they are actually treading the path of the sidewalk. Now, if you think that living paycheck to paycheck isn't for you, the next option might feel safer, but it comes with a trap, and that is the slow lane. This financial roadmap is one a lot of people are actually treading today, according to this book. It is the conventional go to school, get a job, and invest your portion of your paycheck for the next 40 years to become a millionaire. What this book actually points out is, although it's actually nice to have a job and save for the future, it comes with the limitation that people actually focus only on having a job and investing in the market. There are several limitations which were pointed out in this roadmap. Firstly, your job. You can actually go to your boss and ask your boss for 1,000% increase. In the market today, there is an average 10 to 20% pay rise that you can actually get. Secondly, the investment vehicle people choose, which is the stock market. You don't have control over what happens in the market. There could be a market crash which would wipe out all the earnings that you have over a period of time. There could also be deflation, which affects the investments over time. Now, what this points out is, for the slow lane, you have limited leverage and you don't have control. If you're working a job, the maximum amount of time you can actually work is 24 hours, which is in a day. But in most cases, you don't work 24 hours, most times 8 hours. That way, you are very limited in the amount of money you make, because you cannot work beyond that and earn for the remainder of the day. Secondly, the stock market. The book also points out that although investing in the stock market is a very good investment vehicle, having us as a primary investment vehicle for the future and hoping that in 40 years you become a millionaire is, according to the book, one of the fatal failures that a lot of people are actually adopting. And to bring this into perspective, if we were to get into a transaction where I give you $5 and you give me $2 in return, in this transaction, who benefits the most? You would benefit because there is actually a $3 loss, which corresponds to 60%. The book actually points out that the more we work for 5 days a week for 40 years, we have actually lost 60% time during this period. So what the book emphasizes on is you have to work to earn and also invest. That should not be the end goal for you in terms of investment over time. The most important aspect about having wealth is to have wealth when you're young and not in old age, because you need time to actually enjoy what you've created. If you live until 65 or 70 and you become a millionaire at that time, the best parts of life would have been before you, and having to enjoy that at that point in time would not be the best. Now, the next part of financial roadmap is the fast lane. This focuses on having a business that grants you maximum control, leverage, and also allows you to generate wealth over a period of time. The mathematical formula for calculating wealth in this roadmap is a net profit as well as the asset value. A net profit is the profit you get from the amount of goods you sell, and the asset value is the value of the business when you decide to sell it. That generates cash, which you can then use for further investments or live a life that you decide after selling the business. Now, to be a part of the fast lane, you have to be either of the following. You have to be a producer, an entrepreneur, an innovator, creator, or a visionary. Now, hearing the concept about creating a business, you'll be wrong to think that all businesses that you start today would allow you to generate profit, asset value, and also divorce your time from the business, because that's the main thing this book actually emphasizes. Now, the book also focuses on 5 systems that you could add to a business or make your business about in order for you to make it passive so that you don't actually have your time invested in business. The 5 things include rental, software, content distribution, and human resource. Now for rental could be any entity that people could actually pay you for that would generate recurring income. It's not limited to real estate. It could be maybe industrial machine, party equipment, just anything people can pay you that you can rent out, and it gives you recurring revenue over time. Now for software is what you can actually create once and allow people to have access to it over the internet. It could be a website, it could be internet application, or software as a service. So whenever you create this one time, people access it over the internet and you don't have to create that multiple times, just once. Now for content, these are systems of information that you educate and inform people. It could be books, social media, it could actually be a blogging. Now the 4th one is distribution. This is any structure or organizations that you have that you're able to deliver products from when it's being produced and onto people. An example would be Amazon, where people are able to sell their products on and it's get delivered. But the idea is not to go create Amazon, but however, put your mind on having a distribution system where you create and people are able to pass information, goods, products from one point to the other. And lastly is human resource. This book points out that humans are very unpredictable. For you to actually hire people to operate your business, you need to be profitable. And if you're not profitable, it will not be best for you to consider that as an approach. You can actually consider the previous approaches before you now focus on human resource. These 5 seedlings, according to this book, are what you have to create a perspective on for you to make your business about or add them to your business in order for them to become passive. The goal about creating a business is to ensure that your time is not invested in the lifetime of that particular business. Now, the book mentions the framework and criteria for selecting a business. So whenever you've decided that you want to start a business, these 5 things you have to consider. Not all 5 of it, however, you can make sure that minimum of 3 exist in a business. The framework is called the SENSE framework. First, control, entry, need, time, and scale. Now for control, you need to make sure that you have control over every aspect of your business, from the pricing, for the revenue model. If you don't have control over your business, it means that whoever has control is the one who predicts the future of your business. And a typical example would be affiliate marketing. Affiliate marketing could be a business where people get into, but you're not in control of the product that is being sold through that means. What that says, if the person who has the product changes an aspect of it, it also affects the way you present the product to the market or the way you sell it. So whoever controls a particular business controls the future of the business. Entry. The easier it is for you to get into a business, the more saturated it will become and less profitable it will be. So if you can start a business with as little as $200, what that means is many other people can actually start the same business. If you want to get into a business where there's low barrier to entry, you have to be exceptionally good at it, or you be an early adopter so that you're actually the first who gets into it and makes a lot of profit from that business. Now, the next is a need. Whenever you want to start a business, you need to make sure you understand the underlying reason why that business is starting. Is it true passion or solving a problem? The book mentions that people actually care about what your business will do for them rather than your passion or an obsession about a particular business that you decide to create. So if you want to create a business, you need to make sure that it solves a problem. it services a deficiency in the marketplace and also a pain point or people are experiencing. Now, for time, the book points out that for any business that you get into, you need to make sure that on the long term, you are not investing all your time into running that business. At the beginning or the startup stage, it's also really important that you put in all your time to make sure that the business is functional. But it must not be throughout the lifetime of the business. So you have to ask yourself, can I actually operate this business in the future without me? You cannot ask yourself, is there enough margin, profit margin in the business for me to hire people to remove myself or remove yourself from the business? A typical example would be two businesses. Let's say business A, you invest 10 hours and the return in the business is 60,000. And option two of the business two is you put in 70 hours into the business and you get 140,000. What that means is between these two businesses, the business A, you put in a little amount of time and it gives you not a lot of money compared to business two. But the most important thing is to focus on having a business where you put in less time, even if it's not millions, but that's a way for you to create a passive income, which can allow you to then create other businesses or expand a business similar to the one you've just created. Now, the last option is scale. The book talks about when starting a business, you have to make sure that you focus on a business that is more on the global side. Having to start a business that is just operating locally limits you within that specific region where you operate. But the book also mentioned there's an exception to this. If you have a local business and you charge a very high amount of money, let's say the price is very high and you need just a few number of people to make profit in that business, then scale is not necessarily a problem. However, you need to focus on making sure that the business that you create allows you to go beyond the local region that you operate in so that you can take advantage of the internet and distribution systems. Now, the sense framework is not compulsory for all 5 of it, but what the book points out is for businesses that you start, you must make sure that you have a minimum of 3 aspects of this framework and target or ensure that over time you can factor in the remaining so that all of it can be complete. That way, you're creating a business that operates without you, and that way you're creating a vehicle to generate wealth for you in the future. Now, up to this point, you might be asking the question, so where do I get business idea from? What this book points out is a lot of people these days would think that for you to create a business, you need to have a legendary idea. You need to have a perfect idea for you to start a business. But what the book says is you only have to focus on solving problems for a particular group of people. You also need to look beyond the particular sector you're working. If you work in healthcare, you need to make sure that you're not limiting yourself to want to create a business in healthcare. You need to actually focus on the complaints of people. It could be beyond the particular sector you're working, but as long as you hear complaints from people, it should be a sounding bell that says there's a problem here and you need to actually find a way to solve that problem for people. So the list of complaints that you could possibly hear will be one of the following. It could be, I hate doing this is taking too long, this frustrates me, and why is this like this? These complaints should set off a bell in your head that says people are actually experiencing a problem here and it's possible to create a solution to solve that problem. So therefore, when you solve problems for people and market a solution to them, that is the number one way for you to start creating a business. And in return, you're able to generate wealth when you solve the problems of people. In conclusion, the 3 financial roadmaps people fall under is the sidewalk. The sidewalk mostly around instant gratification. What they earn right now, they want to immediately spend it because they're not thinking about the future. The slow lane. These are people who earn right now and hope that in a number of years they'll be able to reap the benefits of the hard work they've put in working. And for the fast lane, this focuses on creating a business where you're able to generate an income, which allows you to take the income to make further investments or create further businesses. To compare these 3 categories in terms of education, now for the sidewalk, they stop after graduation. The slow lane, they use education to elevate themselves in order for them to earn more in their job. Now for the fast lane, they take education as learning what they need to actually solve problems for people. That way, they are building their knowledge in order to run a particular business. Now, in terms of investment, the sidewalk, they don't invest at all. For slow lane, they invest mostly in the stock market or similar markets in order for them to benefit from the future. Now, for the fast lane, they use the stock market as wealth preservation, not as a form of income generation. And also, they invest in businesses that generate money for them. What this book focuses on is generating wealth through creating a business that allows you maximum control, where you can also live the life that you choose rather than living your best life at an old age. I recommend this book for people who are looking to understand their financial roadmap, people who want to become aware of their journey and what they need to take. If I go through all the information on this book, it would be a very long video. But what I would say is get this book and go through it so that you have a very deep dive of the useful information that was put into it. If you would like a one-page summary of all the information that I've gone through, there's a link below where you can click and have access to it and go through it anytime that you choose to. I've come to the end of this video. I thank you for staying up to this moment. If you found this helpful, you can like, subscribe, and until next time, take care and see you. Bye-bye.